Are you ready to unlock the secrets of brand innovation? Here you'll discover unexpected ways to make your brand soar in value. Get ready for inspiring stories, actionable tips, and insights you'll need to build your brand and learn an entirely new way to fly. This is the Hummingbird Effect. And now your host, Wendy Coulter.
Hi, I'm Wendy Coulter, and I help CEOs and marketing leaders unlock the power of their brands. For years, business leaders have focused on marketing tactics, but what truly matters is building a strong brand. Think of it like the Hummingbird Effect. Small innovations in branding can lead to surprisingly big results like increased valuation, a stronger culture, and a marketing message that resonates. Welcome to the show today. I have Hanna Jernigan on with me.
Hello.
Hey, Hanna. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. We've had a morning talking about strategy.
We have. It's been a very long morning, and it's only lunchtime.
It's lunchtime. It's lunchtime. So what's bringing you joy today?
Joy today. I don't want to harp on the holidays. I feel like I did that last time as well, but it is a really joyful time just knowing that I get to look forward to spending not all work time with everyone at work, and I get to see all my family, and I have my travel plans figured out, which was tough. So that's joyful.
So my joy today is that first semester of junior year is getting closer and closer to an end. But, well, I won't do the but. We do have to come back after the holidays for a couple of weeks. But I'm ready. I'm ready for the break and a new semester of school for my daughter. Junior year is no joke. So
Wendy is basically in high school again.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, you learn a lot when you go back and look at pre-calculus all over again. Yeah, there's that. So today we're going to dive deep into the Hummingbird Effect with Lee Whitley. And Lee, welcome to the show. What's bringing you joy today?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. What's bringing me joy, that's easy. This is basically the last week of work before the holidays. And so I joke that companies and employers, so I'm in the recruiting business, employers treat hiring at the end of the year the same way I treat my taxes on April 14th. They wait until the very last minute. So what that means is that during the holiday, Thanksgiving, up to Christmas, when a lot of people are taking their foot off the gas, that's probably one of the most important times for us to be actively recruiting. So for that reason, this week is a flurry of final interviews and reference checks. And it's not this glorious, but you do get to sit back a little bit and see what happens and who gets offers. It's less of an outbound recruiting week and more of a fingers crossed, hope it gets done week. So I'm enjoying seeing that work come to fruition. And of course, as soon as Friday hits, we're pretty much done. So it's been a long year and I'm excited about that.
Yay. Awesome. Well, so you're talking about recruiting, and you started a business not too long ago.
Yep.
And so tell us about your journey, your kind of past life, and what led you to starting the new business, and tell us what it's all about.
Thank you. So I graduated NC State in 2013, and the only job offer I got, Go Pack. Fingers crossed. The only job offer I got out of college was with Insight Global, which is an IT staffing firm, and a really good one. So I stumbled into recruiting by accident, which I would say 80% of recruiters would tell you that's exactly the case. Did that for about a year, worked for a software startup, learned a little bit about entrepreneurship and software and tech, recruited people for that software startup. And then eventually I think I realized that although I'd been wearing lots of hats in the startup world, the most lucrative skill that I actually could point to and actually show results for was in recruiting. And so at that time in 2018, a lot of my friends were in software sales, and they told me about the local recruiter in town. His name's Will Barfield, and he was and still is the first software recruiting headhunter, sole business owner in Raleigh. So I joined Barfield Revenue Consulting in 2018. I'm still heavily involved with them. They're my lead referral partner. And then basically what happened is that from 2020 recruiting basically goes to zero during April, May, June of 2020. And then it rebounds heavily. A very stark up and to the right movement from 2020 to 2022. And then at the end of 2022, I could notice the interest rates were rising, offers were getting rescinded, bad signs. And so I talked to my business partner and I said, well, what am I going to do? Where are all the jobs going and when are they coming back? And it was a very easy conversation. That was late 22, early 23. And my business partner said, well, you've got 4 employees and you've been doing this independently since 2018. So it's time for you to go out on your own so that you can bring in your own business and look out for yourself. So that process started in 23 and then the website through Hummingbird launched in early 24. So I'm going on, I guess, about a year of formally being advertised as out on my own.
Well, I love our connections. So we have a lot of connections, whether it's Erica Rosenthal, Lisa Jeffries over at Raleigh Wood, who's also in the marketing world, who's a good friend of mine and yours, and then Will Barfield. And we just talked about Johnny Bass, who you think your family probably knows down in Rocky Mount. So really, really neat to always think about all the different business connections that we have with our clients. And I thank you for the business that you've brought to Hummingbird over the last year, and we're looking forward to 2025. So thank you for that, and thank you for being on the show. And so before I jump into Hummingbird Effect, though, tell us some fun facts. Like I mentioned that you're from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Sometimes it's rare in the Triangle to find people who are actually like from North Carolina. We have a lot of people who've moved into the area. But tell us some other fun facts about you, Lee.
Yeah. So I'm third generation NC State. So my grandfather went there in 1952, back when there was no females and maybe 1,500. So he was a baseball player at State. My dad actually was a football player at State, 1980 ACC champs. The last time we've won an ACC championship, which is it's a bittersweet fact. So yeah, I'm a big time Wolfpacker. I flew down to Dallas for the Sweet 16 Elite 8. Also flew to Phoenix. I've been to Little Rock, Arkansas to watch the baseball team play. So definitely an avid State fan. That's not a fun fact. I would say a fun fact would be, so I'm a history major from college, which is somewhat rare. And I am a bit of a history buff. When my wife goes out to dinner with her friends, she says, what are you going to do tonight? Oh, let me guess. You're going to watch a World War II documentary. And she's right. I do want to put a plug for a recent movie I watched. It's called Midway, and it's on Netflix, and it's about the Battle of Midway in the Pacific, and it's fantastic. So I spent a lot of my time reading about history and watching documentaries. I enjoy reading about leaders and militaries and empires of the past. That's something I enjoy. I think a key to my success is I drive a 2015 Kia Optima. I love that thing. It is paid off. It is worth about $5,000 soaking wet. It is Japanese engineered. It's indestructible, and they will pry that from my dead hands before I get rid of that Kia. It's been with me through thick and thin. So that's my best friend outside of my real friends. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think one thing that I love on this podcast is I am getting my collection of who I would call if I was ever on a game show. And there was a question I just didn't know. Now I have history, World War II.
Yep.
Sports, yeah.
Sports. So that's exciting. So with your brand, Lee, something that I love is you're not the typical recruiter. And we've had the chance to talk about that in our meetings and even today. And I mean that by your name's not Whitley Healthcare Recruiting or Whitley Transportation Recruiting.
Or administrative staffing.
Right. You are Whitley Recruiting, and then your tagline is building elite teams. So you really focus on just finding the best in the business and putting them where they need to be. So can you talk about why you have that differentiation, how you got there?
Yes. So that is by necessity, and that is out of survival. I historically, 80% of the recruiting I've done has been recruiting salespeople for software startups. That's what I love to do. That's what I'm known for. The truth is, I've seen that vertical shrivel twice, 2020 and 23, 24. And so it's very difficult to focus on that and only that and still be able to survive downturns. Not only so you want to talk about building an elite team, because any growing business, the talent, who they hire, that's the main thing that they can actually control that will have the biggest impact on their success and their growth and their culture, and frankly, the happiness of the team and the employers. So the idea of building elite teams is that because me and my team have been trained to recruit in a very competitive environment. So software startups, it's an extremely competitive. There's other agencies that work on it. Employee referrals are very strong. Job posting and the branding of these organizations is very strong. So you have to be extremely fast in order to survive. And so our urgency and our skill, what I found is that when I launched Whitley, thanks to Hummingbird, a lot of my friends who had nothing to do with software just said, oh, well, I own a furniture company and I need a NetSuite administrator, so I'm going to call Lee. And that hire itself was mission critical to that business. They had used agencies prior that were specific, furniture-specific recruiting firms, and they told me that we outperformed. And so I think that because you're trained in the software world to hit 100-mile-an-hour fastball over and over, that certainly translates to privately held, smaller, family-owned businesses. So that's the idea, is that any business that can grow or wants to grow, we can help. And that's a diversification play for us, frankly.
Right. And that is your Hummingbird effect. You kind of flipped the script. You found a change to make in an area that you needed to survive, as you said. But I question, how uncomfortable was it to make that switch? How did you attack going into it? And then there was obvious success there, but kind of changing your mindset. How did that feel?
So I had to put on my sales and business development hat for the first time. And that goes back to why I started it. From 2018 to 2022, I never had to ask people for business. And when you start, a business and you brand yourself as the owner or the CEO, I don't like the word CEO because I'm still recruiting. There is natural imposter syndrome, but you're actually calling someone or meeting them and actually introducing yourself from one owner to another CEO. That was awkward. And, reaching out to people and getting hard no's was painful. So that's been a transition. Luckily now I'm just used to it, so it's fine. What's interesting is that the business that we did outside of software and tech, that was not painful at all. That just came naturally. That was an accident. I just kept hammering content consistently. And then the non-software people just reached out to me, and I actually found that to be fairly easy. The difficult part was hosting networking events, right? So, I'm the MC. Hey, everyone, thanks for coming. Putting yourself out there, asking people for referrals up to the CEO, being told no. That was the hard part, I think, this year, of the first year. Yeah.
So, Lee, we talk about the Hummingbird effect and how in order to achieve in order to make a seemingly small change and it impact something in a big way, oftentimes takes innovation, but you don't know you're being innovative. So can you talk about kind of what the innovation of this has been for you in this first year in business?
It's doing, so what I've liked about Hummingbird is that it's been a lot of core marketing fundamentals, case studies, testimonials, doing case studies, doing testimonials, and just simply putting that on LinkedIn and putting that on the internet. You're not going to see a lot of staffing firms that will post a testimonial about their client. See, it's a bit protective. You don't want people to know who your clients are because then they can call on them. But we chose loyal clients that we trust, and just simply saying, I worked with this company and we made 16 hires in 5 months, and 40% of candidates that interviewed received and accepted offers. Everyone has those stats. Like, I'm not the only person who's good at recruiting, but sending that out. Google reviews. I love Google reviews. And that's anytime that you get someone a job, like, why wouldn't you ask for a 5-star Google review? It's just something that's lost. It's just maybe not that important, big, but it's so simple. And doing the simple things like old school and just consistently showing goodwill to the market and just showing a brand of partnership and cooperation and like delightful experiences, just continuing to blast that and just making sure that's at the top of people's mind. Very simple, but I think that's brought in a lot more business than I thought it would.
And you had mentioned earlier that those sales calls or sales meetings were uncomfortable. So you got comfortable living in the uncomfortable, which I love and I try to do often. But how would you say your branding helped it become more comfortable? How did investing in that part of your business help you succeed?
The personal feel of the website helps. The pictures of the team, not only on the front page, in our headshot, but the personal team pictures of us with our families or doing our hobbies, that's given people an idea of not only who we are, but why we do what we do. So that, I think, makes people feel comfortable that we're going to take care of them because we value our lives and what we're trying to get out of this. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that the personal, just basic touch of the website helped, and the testimonials help. And if you look at the testimonials, a lot of them are personal. Like, I've worked with other agencies, but these guys listen. That's one of the first ones, is that they listen, or they don't waste our time. Like, this was a seamless situation. It's not all about increasing revenue and saving time. It's a lot of it's about the impact that we've had. So another one is that, we've found sales reps that have become leaders. So that's like a quadruple whammy of a hire. Mm-hmm. Basically, you killed 4 birds with one stone. That personal touch of the website and just being as genuine as possible, I think that's made prospects feel more comfortable working with us.
We touched on earlier your Hummingbird Effect being, you're not niched down too far, but that's another one as well. You don't do what everyone else does. You tell people who your clients are. You talk about your team. Has that had any impact on your team as well, like inside culture, to making the change that you were doing outwardly to the people that you wanted to work with?
Yes. I've got a very good team that I trust. It's very important, especially with a small business, to only work with people you trust. There was never a concern there, but I think this year has solidified that we have worked together in a foxhole to do whatever it took. And that feeling within the team that everyone was a part of survival, and that this is the website and all these things, it speaks to why we do this. We do this because we can live the life that we want on our own terms, make good money in a flexible environment while making people's lives better. Like, helping, even if we don't hire 100 people, I would still say we've helped significantly, hundreds this year, every day. So yes, I think that confirms to the team why we do what we do, and that's why they like it.
Do you want to stay ahead with insightful tips and industry-leading knowledge to build your business value through better branding? Sign up for the Birds of Wisdom email newsletter from Hummingbird Creative Group. The newsletter is packed with expert advice and the latest trends to help you elevate your brand. Visit hummingbird-creative.com today to subscribe. Don't miss out. Join the community and let's soar together.
I think as we all started our businesses, we were kind of headed into an unknown, right? I've been heading into the unknown for almost 30 years, and there's still unknown in front of me. I'm just curious as to what kind of unexpected outcomes have happened for you since you started the business as the result of the approach that you've taken with this building elite teams, not being so much in a niche. Even though you came from a niche, you realized you needed to be you need to do it different in order to survive.
Yeah.
What unexpected outcomes have you experienced as a result?
I have a very specific number. I knew that this year would be a little scary, but I didn't know how it was going to look. So if you talk about our niche, software sales, generally have a pattern of people coming back. I can somewhat forecast what software sales, recruiting revenue is going to look like. Based on the economy, I can forecast that. I didn't understand, and that's the scary thing about staffing. I don't know who I'm going to be recruiting for in February. I have no idea. And so I certainly didn't know that this year. Our numbers, the revenue for this year. So if you take the amount of revenue that we took in that was from referrals from my friends that don't do business with me, just friends of mine who know who I am, that referred me business that I've never done before. Let's say that number is $100,000 in revenue. Now total up the entire amount of revenue. Now subtract all expenses. What is your profit? It is almost identical, exact profit to the number that I brought in from referrals. Meaning that had my friends not noticed that, oh, Lee started his own business. Oh, it looks to me like Lee just, he's a great recruiter. That's what they got. Had that not happened, our profit would have been zero. We would have flatlined. So it's kind of like, oh man, I don't want to get spiritual, but it's just too funny.
What advice would you give other businesses that are looking to leverage similar opportunities to what you've done?
Cash. You just got to have cash. You've got to have cash, but you've got to invest in marketing. You've got to invest not just in your website, but whether it's consistent content, which is easy and effective, or targeted advertising, whatever it is, you've got to have some sort of consistent communication with the market.
So you talk about consistency in the market, and we were talking a little bit before the show about consistency being something that you felt like has just really impacted what you've done. Can you talk more about that, and also talk about how you can be consistent but stay adaptable?
Yes. So consistent is different than active. You've got to do it enough for people not to forget about you. That's the big story, is that I think it's easy for people to forget, like, what I even do. Is he even still doing recruiting? Oh yeah, he just does the software stuff. Like, they can't forget what you're doing. So I think that consistency in that aspect of being mindful of how often you're getting people's attention. You've got the key things that you do that bring in revenue, but that's not everything that your audience cares about. We had a post about us at a golf tournament that we sponsored for charity. And then, there's a picture of us eating dinner together for the holiday Christmas party. Like, that has nothing to do with our offer to acceptance ratio, but that continues, like, the fact that these are the people who we are, and these are the people that you're working with to deliver for your team. So there's different types of messages out there, because you're a well-rounded business in the sense that you don't just sell one type of product. So you've got to talk about the different things you do. But you're also well-rounded as a group of people, which I think clients and people care about.
I think you touched on something that is really difficult to actually do. And we were kind of talking about it this morning. It's tough to have your strategy and to follow through with it. What yours is, you're going to post what matters. That's a really hard thing to actually
I think the intention of that is honorable. And I think a lot of even larger brands don't have that kind of intention in what they're doing with their marketing. There's always the pressure on marketing teams to show numbers and to show very strong results. It's hard to show results when there aren't numbers there. And so I think a lot of marketers get into this need to continue to grow the numbers of what they're doing, thinking that's going to lead to results and the numbers being bigger in terms of results. And it doesn't always play out that way. And so, talk about intentionality. I mean, how has that played out? How has that played out for you?
I think one of the most impactful things that I do is I hosted 2 or 3 networking meetups. So basically, I pay for food and drinks. And you invite speakers, or sometimes you don't. And it's important when I send something out on LinkedIn that we are hosting an event. It's important that that gets a lot of impressions, because if you think about everything we've talked about around our team, how we help people, so what does that matriculate into? So what is like the end of that funnel? A big one for me is that because we invest in our reputation, if I'm hosting a sales networking event, we get over 100 RSVPs and we get 60 to 80 to show up just from a LinkedIn post, which is pretty good. And that event, it makes perfect sense why I would do that. You're giving back to the people that you serve, because this is not a marketing conversation. This is just what's happened in the world. There's not enough human interaction, and people want to meet someone who works over at Bandwidth. Oh, I'd love to meet someone who works over at Pendo, et cetera. So I offer basically an opportunity for people to do that. And we pay for it and we organize it. And that, it keeps you close to the people that you care about. It puts you in front of hiring managers and sales reps. But it's self-servingly philanthropic. It's both. So I think that's a key thing that we do, in everything that I put out on the internet. I want to make sure that it continues that sentiment.
I want to go somewhere a little bit different. So what you may or may not know is you do have 2 alumni sitting across the table from you from NC State.
Yeah.
You've got one who tailgates like a mad person throughout the seasons, and so
passionate,
very passionate, and a passionate fan that you might not want to be sitting near if things go awry in a game. And so going back to the fact that you've got a degree in history from NC State, and today you're running a business, right? And there are a lot of stories like that I know of people who started in one place and have landed in another. Can you talk about, however, how that experience and maybe that network has served you today in your business? Because I think that's another example of a hummingbird effect. And you even could go back as far as relationships from Rocky Mount, Wilson, North Carolina, to NC State, to you have mentioned your friends a few times. And so are those long-term friendships?
Every referral that I've had this year outside of the software realm, they're either someone from NC State or someone from Rocky Mount.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit of going to NC State, is that you can work in the city in which you went to college to.
Right.
So I have been spoiled, and maybe I should have challenged myself a little bit more, but I graduated in 2013. I've never had an issue knowing who to hang out with. It's been baked in. And so, yeah, like one of my roommates is now one of the leading guys at Dogwood Bank. Right? So that's on the website. And I don't recruit for banks, but I guess I do now. My best friend from Rocky Mountain who owns that furniture company, or, that is now a success story because I proved that I could hire a highly technical person to work in office in Rocky Mount, which is not easy to do. And that's a feat. Raleigh is like, so my parents grew up, or my dad grew up in Rocky Mount, and like in the 80s and 90s, Centura Bank and Hardee's and all these businesses, like that was a rising tide. And for that reason, that generation of, the 55 to 65-year-old crowd, they all did well because of that. Being in Raleigh right now is a cheat code. It's not even fair. Like, you just show up and do the right things and network, and like you're going to find opportunity. So going to NC State, having a strong network of people that actually respect me and have sent me business, like I said earlier, the numbers would not have mathed this year without it. But what I'll say about history is that our team, all four of us, we are all above average writers. When you ask someone what makes a good recruiter, they would say, well, you've got to be able to sniff people out. You've got to be able to be really good on the phone. You've got to be able to do a lot of calls. Those are all true. You've got to have activity. You've got to have good people skills. I think, what about the ability to write 20 personalized outreach messages in 7 minutes? What about that? What about, like, I don't need Chat GPT to write a job description. It takes me 3 minutes and it's good. Like, when you're emailing a SVP of sales, like, they are more senior to you, but if you write a certain way, you look different. That's the way that we get things done. How do you schedule 20 interviews at a time? You've got to be a concise writer. History, I didn't major in business, and a lot of my friends who majored in business got better jobs than I did out of college, which is fair, but they're not bad writers. Like, most of them have, and business writing is different. You can really just adapt your writing, but I think that, out of the box, writing's been a advantage I've had, and believe it or not, my entire team, they share that skill.
That's a really cool thing to pull out of that, and a skill to take with you. So who would have thought that you'd...
Well, the power of words, right? That's a lifelong gift is what that is, because a lot of people don't ever get into that writing place at all. And when you're in business, it does help you rise to the top to be able to communicate well. And that's part of marketing too, that communications piece. So what else do you have to share?
If you agree that talent is important to your business, if you agree that talent's going to help you generate more revenue, profit, increase market share, go into new industries. If you agree that talent's going to take you there, you've got to have a meeting with all the stakeholders in the interview process. Everyone needs to understand that this is an offensive movement. This is not a cautious movement. This is not something that is a distraction that's taking them away. This is critical towards making them look better and making the business bring in more money. Because the timing in between interviews, your ability to schedule efficiently, to get feedback to candidates, including deny them fast. They'll love you for it. Candidates get mad when you deny them after 6 weeks. They don't get mad after 2 weeks. Make sure whenever you're recruiting that everyone involved understands what this means to the business and understands that this is an offensive movement for them. If everyone's on the same page versus this just being another task, you'll get more candidates because of time, because they won't get other offers. And it just, generally speaking, is a good exercise for the people within the business to operate as a unit and to understand that talent acquisition is just as important, if not more important, than delivering that deliverable back to the client, during the holidays. It's maybe sometimes more important, and everyone needs to feel the same way when they're doing it.
You're so passionate about your business. So we really appreciate having you on today. These have been great insights, Lee. It's great to get to know you even better, and I'm excited for you going into 2025. I think it'll be a fantastic year. So any final thoughts, Hanna?
No. Would you mind sharing with the listeners how to get in touch with you?
Oh, yeah. Lee, Lee, at whitleyrecruiting.com.
And his LinkedIn that he's so widely talked about is just Whitley Recruiting.
Lee Whitley, recruiter. That's the tagline. Not
Okay.
CEO, not scaling teams, recruiter. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much again, Lee, for coming on and sharing your stories with us today. And thank you to all the listeners who are hearing this episode today as we go into the holiday season. Have a joyful season and go out and find your hummingbird effect. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Hummingbird Effect with Wendy Coulter. We hope you found this episode valuable. Please be sure to rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more or to work with Wendy and her team, go to hummingbird-creative.com.